This is an update to a story I spoke about on my channel. I want to say earlier this year. I don't know if I did a separate video on or if I talked about it in the form of a live stream, but I did remember talking about it. And that is involving the death of Sensei Reed at the hands of Craig Butler, who you see right there on the right. And not so surprising news, especially with how they mishandled this case early on when it happened. Craig Butler, who claimed self-defense when he killed Sensei Reed, will not be hit with any murder charges. Instead, he's going to be they're keeping the lower charges on the table, which I don't expect to go very far considering they didn't keep the murder charges in. They really wanted to get that murder charge off the table. I truly believe they probably would have had, if those charges didn't get dropped, he most likely would have got convicted of it, but they just dropped them anyway, in my honest opinion. But we'll see what they have to say. Craig Butler, a 36-year-old white man who shot and killed 13-year-old Sensei Reed in Columbus, Ohio in October, was indicted by a grand jury Friday on charges of tampering with evidence and improperly handling firearms in a motor vehicle. So this was back in October. I thought I talked about it earlier this year, but it was most likely late last year. Had to be. Now peep that. Charges of tampering with evidence and improperly handling firearms. But they want to say it was self-defense. Okay. If it was so-called self-defense, then the only charges that would have been dropped that they dropped in this was the murder charge. That would have been all he would have hit with. But those other two, tampering with evidence, what was he trying to hide? But it's so-called self-defense though. No charges were brought against Butler directly related to the fatal shooting of the black teenager. This reminds me of how they mishandled Jordan Davis initially before they went back to trial and ended up hitting Michael Dunn with those charges, which got him landed in jail, which is where he's currently at today. We're not going to give you the murder charges for what you actually did. We're going to give you these lower ones. Some BS. The indictment comes after the office of Franklin County Prosecutor G. Gary Tyak presented evidence surrounding the death of the teen to a Franklin County grand jury on May 17th and 18th. Multiple witnesses testified under oath. Reed's family says it is planning a protest on Saturday, which is today. Y'all will see the video tomorrow, though. Well, on Sunday. With local activists at the Ohio State House. His mother, Megan Reed, shared a statement with ABC News on Friday through Columbus community activist DeJuan Sharp after the indictment was announced. The family, although disappointed with the grand jury decision, we will not be deterred from getting justice on the federal level, Megan Reed said in the statement. We believe our local government is grasping at the lowest hanging fruit, partly because of Ohio Governor Mike DeWine's rush to implement stand your ground legislation without giving our courts and police proper legal guidance. What if I told y'all about that stand your ground stuff? That thing never works for black people, but it always works for PC. It's very rare that PC doesn't have stand your ground work for them, but basically what she's saying is that this governor quickly implemented stand your ground before they had all the stuff in place to get him with. So this Mark DeWine is a key element as to why Craig Butler does not have that murder charge attached to him. DeWine signed a stand your ground bill in January of 2021, which removed the requirement for someone to retreat before self-defense. Attempts by ABC News to reach Butler for comment were unsuccessful, and it is unclear if he has retained an attorney. According to a police affidavit, a witness to the shooting saw Butler shoot and kill Reed during an encounter outside of an apartment complex on October 12, 2022. The witness said Butler exited his truck, fired shots at Reed, and drove off. Now, does that sound like self-defense? This guy got out of his truck, went up to Sensei Reed where he was at, shot him, got in the truck, and drove off. Does that sound like self-defense? It doesn't sound like self-defense to me. But in this PC society we live in, up is down and down is up. Butler was arrested days after the shooting and charged with murder, but those charges were dropped at the time pending completion of the investigation after prosecutors said Butler claimed self-defense in the shooting during his arraignment in October, according to a statement from the Columbus Police Department. Police told ABC News they have completed their investigation. Court documents obtained by ABC News show no record that Reed had a weapon during the encounter with Butler. Before I go any further, these PC individuals have deputized themselves and they're allowing themselves to get away with it. Now, this story did not get as much traction like, say, what happened with Jordan Neely and Daniel Penny did, but I can just about guess that if it did, just by what Craig Butler says that he quote unquote claiming self-defense, they would have had a GoFundMe account set up for him and he would probably be a millionaire by now. If they shoot, to be honest, me saying that, they probably had one set up for him. We just didn't hear about it. But again, the society we're in structures itself under complete and utter chaos. According to a Franklin County autopsy report released on January 17th, the teen was shot twice, one in the hand and once in the chest, concluding the manner of death was a homicide. The Franklin County Prosecutor's Office said in a statement on Friday that they would not comment further as Butler's case will be actively prosecuted. Megan Reed told ABC News' Lindsay Davis in an interview on ABC News Live in January that she is seeking justice for her son. "I need justice for my son. My son's no longer here. I'm going to continue this war and I will be his voice until he gets justice." She added, "I'm very frustrated because I know if it was the other way around, if it was a black man and my child was white, the black man would be in jail and my son would have justice." Well, she ain't lying there. It is very rare that that happens. But again, like I said, that stand your ground thing does not work for black people. It always, for the most part, usually works for people like Craig Butler. Again, this guy got out of his truck, went up to where Sensei Reed was and shot him twice. Got in his truck and drove away. That's why when I first heard about this story, I compared it to Jordan Davis, because Jordan Davis was in a car at a gas station with his friends that were playing music, and because Michael Dunn felt some type of way, he got his gun, went up to the car, started shooting at the car wildly. He didn't care who he hit or who was in the vehicle. Got in the car with his girlfriend or whoever that woman was, I believe that was his girlfriend or his wife, and drove away. Now, I don't think he claimed stand your ground then. Not that he should have, because that wasn't it. But it was pretty much along the same lines as far as the scenarios having some similarities. He did all of this against this 13-year-old boy, claimed self-defense, and I remember now they didn't have any charges with murder for him then. The fix was in then. They had no intentions of charging this man with the highest level of crime that he committed, which was murder, even then. So it was not hard for them to not have the charge of murder stick when it actually counted. They had no intention of doing so. That's when I was looking at the lesser charges that he had. I said, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like self-defense to me at all. It sounded very intentional. So now all he has is these two small charges hanging over him, and I don't know what kind of jail time, if any, that'll actually do. If he does get jail time, it'll be probably less than 5 years, and he'll be right back out on the street again. Self-defense. That's what they call this now. So you can just go up and kill somebody, claim self-defense, and just worse for you. But only if you look like this guy right here. And of course, I might have some trolls come over and saying that, this, that, and the third. Don't insult my intelligence. You will be blocked. Now is not the time for that. But I do offer him again, because I think I offered him when I first did this story, my condolences to his family. Only 13. 1 year older than Tamir Rice. Killed in a similar fashion. And him and his family got no justice either. And here we have it again. And just in case y'all were unaware, this is Mike DeWine, the governor of Ohio, who looks like Kane's brother from Poltergeist Part 2. I'm just hearing his voice in my head saying, step into the light, Carol Ann. Sensei Reed's blood is just as much on his hands as it is on Craig Butler's.